right, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about how amazing Amani and Woody have been doing. It's so easy to get caught up in like what's happening with the other couples because there's a lot more drama to talk about, but like they have been solid from day one.
True.
Not only have they gone through a pandemic together, they have been gelling, they have been figuring stuff out, they are having direct and honest communications about things. Like,
What?
oh my god! Like, I will admit
Found
I
it.
have not seen every single season of Married at First Sight, but like they are my favorite couple that I have watched of what I have seen.
Mhm.
Like they are such a home run.
And they are like I think they are the best couple from all the seasons in my opinion. Just because a lot of the other couples that really make it tend to not talk about a lot of those serious issues early on. They like rather build their like just comfort around one another. And there are some couples that really do make it really well and had some difficult issues, but like they recovered from every difficult issue in the moment. Like any serious conversation they're having, they're open and honest and respect one another. Oh my gosh, they like respect the heck out of one another. And that just helps them thrive. I was just like, can we all learn how to be like you two, please?
Yeah. He's been throwing shots this entire season, and it's really great to see. Like he really likes his wife. He's all about it. And I like in the beginning, just quick, brief clips that we saw of him. I was like, oh, he's going to be extra, but he is incredibly articulate when it comes to like he understands his point of view. He understands why he has that point of view. It's just they are so perfect. They're so perfect for each other. They're TV gold. Like we got like outfits for days. We got dance moves for days. We've got like it's just they are such a breath of fresh air. And wow, I don't know what else to say about them. Like they're so good. They're so good.
I feel like they're up there with like Lauren and Cameron from Love is Blind. Like that level of like, oh, I get this. And like them being just a really solid match that continues on.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any doubts that they'll say yes. And it's just such a refreshing thing to see two people just be completely themselves with each other and it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's because they know themselves so well. Both of them have talked in depth about their own like opinions and how they came to be the people they are today. And they are so secure independently that just makes them so much better together.
Yeah. Plus they got swag, you know, they got some style to them. You know?
They really do.
Like obviously I'm a big fan of Lauren and Cameron. But man, like they've got plenty of personality. But next to Woody and Amali, they look like some like I don't know, vanilla or I don't know. Name something that doesn't have seasoning in it. Unseasoned.
Oh, burn on Cameron.
Oh, so 2018. 20. But like they're such a great couple. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we've ever seen a couple gel as quickly as they have as well. That's the reason why we like the show. There are like some great successes, right? And that's the great thing about this. And I know there are like some comments like, oh, you know, there's a low percentage that you have your partner. It's a lot higher than like Bachelor and Bachelorette and a lot of these other shows out here. So like they do a really good job of finding people who want to be together, but it takes time, you know, that's a normal thing. It takes time for that to happen. But with Woody and Amani, I just like from the first interaction they had after the wedding, I was like, oh, they'll be fine. This is it. Done. Like staying together. There's no need for me to see any more. So I just love is real. Love is real, people. Yeah. It's out there.
They just like from the moment they like really like after the ceremony and they're standing at that cocktail table and they're just talking, I was like, they already are acting like a power couple. Like
Mhm.
they see each other and they know themselves and they're just like, yep, yep. Like they're not, I'm sure they were nervous and, you know, whatever, but they just shove that aside like, no, we're doing this. There is no question in my mind that we are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's, I want to go back and pull this quote. There's something Amani said towards the end of like their reception, and she's, you know, doing the talking head thing, and she's just like, yeah, he just seems really sweet. You know, it seems like he's really genuine. I'm feeling really good about this. But you know what? If even if we, you know, hit some bumps in the road, whatever, like we're gonna make this work. I want to tell our grandkids about this. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's that mindset we were talking about before of like already thinking of this as someone that you're going to be like excited to have, you know, grandchildren, you know, coming into the world. Like
Mhm.
that's the kind of perspective that allows them to be so awesome, and they're both there for it, and it's just the perfect timing, the perfect people, and like I never want to stop watching them.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Can we have a spin-off on just Amani and Woody?
I would watch the heck out of it.
TV gold.
They-
TV gold.
Seriously.
I think
Mhm.
something I noticed with them as well is like in the beginning, a lot of like when they were meeting their friend group and they're like, Miles is ready for marriage. Woody, I don't know about you, right? And I
Mhm.
think there's this thing that I feel like once he was with her, and he's actually echoed this, so I'm not bringing anything new to the table here, really. But once he was with her, he was like, "Oh, this is way better than what I was doing before with dating around and stuff like that." Like the right person, you'll be like, "No, no, this is good. Like I see this." And also, I love the fact that he put all his chips in from the beginning. Like he was in this. He was you could tell he was completely in this, and I think sometimes it's natural to kind of want to like go into this with like a guarded and like, okay, you have to prove yourself to me and that type of viewpoint. Um, but he was all in, and it kind of reminds me of um, to kind of bring it to business because I love talking business, but you know, it's like the difference between a person who does a company where they're like, well, we'll do that later when we have our finances, and a person who is um, doing it right from the get go. You know, like if you're doing it, if it's worth doing right. And I just love how he could have been a little bit more shy in terms of saying that he loved her. He could have been a little bit more shy in terms of flirting and saying that she looked good. Like he could have, there's so many things that he could have waited for, but he's like, no, I feel it. I think my wife looks good. I'm going to say that she looks good. I think I love her. I'm going to say I love her. Like it's just spot on. It's just perfect.
Mhm.
And she, on the other hand, as well, is just giving him when they had that Pastor Cal conversation where that could have turned into a bigger issue. She gave him the space to like explain himself, and he did perfectly. Like some other people might go, "How dare you?" and like storm out. And you know, we've seen that in other shows. And she was like, "All right, let me hear him out." And it made total sense once he explained his perspective on it. So it's just it's amazing to see. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I find it especially exciting to see like these really great couples because it's so easy to pick out like, oh, that's what you don't do. Don't be like Brett flirting with a waitress at your bachelor night. Don't be like, you know, Christina accusing your partner of, you know, cheating, whatever. But to actually see a real example of what to do, that is immeasurably helpful to see that modeled. Of like, you can see where all those things could have gone wrong, like that whole hair conversation, that could have gone wrong in a million different ways. But because they're at a point in their journey of growth, they were able to sit through the discomfort and have the conversation and resolve it when that could have been a weeks long thing that would have been like them coming back to. So like seeing a real example of just like a real couple going through a difficult conversation and coming through the other side still cool. Like that's what makes me excited about this show, is because people can see that and be like, oh, that's how my relationship could be, or that's what I want in a relationship. And that looks like they're both happy and good. Like maybe that's healthy. And like getting more of a perspective on what a healthy relationship is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. They're great.
Oof. One last thing on them, because let's just keep on gushing. But I also really like, so on paper, he seems a little problematic, on paper.
How so?
Lives with his grandma, and it's stuff like that where if she was to judge right away, that would be a thing, right? I could see certain people going, you don't have your own house, you don't have your own car, you live with your grandma, you have your hats are an art collection, like making quick assumptions like that. And I sometimes fall into this of thinking, I think a lot of guys fall into this, where you think I need to be the perfect person first before I find my partner. And yes, to some of that, like you want to know yourself and all that type of things, but you can be in the journey of your life as well. Maybe you're not the top lawyer at your firm. Like you could find them at law school. You could find them in high school. Like you can find your partner whatever stage of your life process, and then you guys can grow together. And like seeing the way they handled their finances conversation, the way I viewed that, and that might be different for other people, but I think their financial literacy is different, but they're gonna grow together, and that's fine. They're coming at it from different ways, but they love each other so much, and they have so much trust in each other that I have no worry about them figuring it out. Like they're going to figure it out. They'll get it right, and they'll be fine, and they'll move on. And just things like that, where we've seen with other couples where it's just like the one thing and they keep on bringing back to it. There's so many things that she could have picked, or that he could have picked on her, and they don't, because they love the other person, and they're just in the moment. And they're so great.
They're thinking long term.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if, he left his laundry on the floor one time. If this is the man that you're dedicated to being with him forever, you're able to let things go when it's not just like, I don't know if this is the dude for me. He left his laundry on the floor. Tally against him.
Seriously, though. I told the expert not to give me some like.
Oh, goodness. Oh, gosh.
Well, I hate to take us away from this joyous couple, but there's a couple other things I think we should talk about. So, everybody talks to their friends leading up to decision day, trying to choose what they're going to do. I felt like Bennett had a really interesting conversation with his two friends. Thaddeus in particular was pretty outspoken about, it seems like he was just not on board with the idea of this arranged marriage from the start, and nothing is going to sway his opinion on that. So, Mabel, how'd you feel about that whole scene with Thaddeus?
So when I was listening to Thaddeus's concerns,
who was called Thaddeus in 2020? I'm sorry, what? Where are you finding
He wasn't born in 2020.
Thaddeus? My goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. Like,
hey, that's one of the names that you're like, listen, no one's gonna be able to confuse my child with anybody else. They're gonna be unique and even like.
Hey, I can't judge. My name is 14 letters long. I added an extra letter. Like, I can't judge. I get it.
Can't even keep track.
But
do you know how?
But Thaddeus, my goodness.
Yeah, that was funny. That's funny.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I'm like, hey, another part of Bennett. I mean, why wouldn't he have a friend? You know what I mean? Like,
and that's Bennett his best friend. That's what his little under his name, it said best friend. That is his number one man. Thaddeus.
Bennett's just all about everything about his life. He's just, hey, this is it. We're living it every day. No, so what I pictured when I heard Thaddeus be concerned about, Amelia and Bennett I just pictured one of those like helicopter parents that is just so worried about like their child making a mistake that they have to make sure to impede whatever they're about to do so that they like don't bring forth this catastrophe. And that's what I pictured when Thaddeus was like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible idea. Like you should, like basically saying you should have never done this. And like, how could you possibly know somebody in this and never really giving any weight to what has happened since they've known each other, but that this was a bad idea from the start and it could possibly never work out. And so like, just to hear him keep drilling that in, I was like, because my dad has this mentality, like, yes, you may make a mistake, but you know what? How bad of consequences are really going to be? I've cut my thumb before trying to cut an apple because you know what? I learned how to not hold the knife when I'm cutting an apple. Yeah. You know what? I didn't die. He did tell me to stop, but I just didn't listen. But like, it's like, you have to be able to understand there are some things that you just kind of let play out. This is not going to be the end of the world. And he already is married. So from here, what is the worst that could happen if you stop him or not? He gets a divorce, which is not great. But did he fail at life? No. So like, it was just like, okay, like, and I like that Bennett was like, pump the brakes. I understand you were not for this. And just really kind of like reined him in a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I thought when Thaddeus was talking was like, man, who hurt you? Like, you got some horrible relationship.
I say that's a problem. I can't say that to a lady. Who hurt you?
Who hurt you?
You don't want to say that.
Hey.
You don't want to say that.
Is there something on your chest, Agu? You want to get off?
No. You want to talk about something?
I'm not going to rant about that. I don't care. But you just don't want to say that to the few male listeners out there. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. He's a trap.
Don't fall for it.
Oh God. I just like, he went so hard, and like the black and white thinking that we've seen a lot in Brett, for example. I think we see that in Thaddeus, where he's like, he has this belief that the whole idea of marrying a stranger is stupid and is not going to work. And like, no matter what new information Bennett can provide him about how it's actually going pretty well, is just going to not sway his opinion at all. He is only going to believe that this is a trap. She's a sea witch who's coming to take all his, life and happiness and the few money, pennies he has. Like,
that's great.
Like,
I love that.
But like, it was like Bennett said, yeah, like things are going well. Like we were having a lot of fun together. And so Thaddeus is like, well, of course it's fun. You're in the honeymoon phase. And I was like, I bet if Bennett had been like, yeah, we've had some things we've had to work through, like she's going to be moving for residency, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do there, and then I'm sure that Thaddeus would be like, well, of course, you're just married a stranger, like you're going to have problems. Like there's no convincing him. So like you might as well just like not talk about it, because he's just going to keep telling you that like you're an idiot, and that's not helpful. I was just like, Thaddeus, like stop. He's already married. Like, to your point, Mabel, he is already married. Let him be married and try it out.
Yeah. Also, a lot of his complaints, they're like in all relationships, like anytime you're engaged to somebody, where they put
anytime?
I'm just saying the argument actually works. You could use those same arguments for any, like, you were dating for a year. How do you know that it's the real them? It's not the representative, huh? Like they might have been like
the representative.
They might have been doing that, to get you to marry them, and then they'll be like, ha ha ha, I don't like the Seahawks. I think they suck. I do. I just went down a rabbit hole for no reason. But I think the thing that he was so maybe not negative, but so cautious about it that it felt like a joke. It felt like comedy to me. Like the line he said about, what's she going to do? Come home and walk you like she walks the dog or something like that. I'm like, man, this is harsh out here.
Are you guys doing a scene? Is this for your show?
He's going through some transitions. Okay, he doesn't really have a job at the moment. Okay, let the man live. they were that was a great scene. But I mean, maybe he's doing it out of love. I'm sure he's doing it out of love, and he wants him to not get hurt. Enough blah blah blah. Benefit of the doubt. Insert blah blah blah. Also,
insert nice words here.
I'll dub something in for you.
Yeah. Now that I'm in the PC cleaning things up, I would like to also apologize to all the Thaddeus's out there. Your name is not funny, and I apologize.
You're making it worse.
This individual being called
but
Thaddeus.
Also, if you told everyone your full name, then they would make fun of you too.
Oh, I know. I'm in a glass house throwing all the stones. I'm fine with that. So yeah, I think it was a great scene. That's my main thing. I got nothing else to add to it. You guys, you laid that out perfectly.
I mean, but I think now that I think about it, that's not the first friend that we've seen Bennett have be like almost overly protective of him. So
that's true.
I can't remember her name now. Emily, something like that.
Girl with the bangs when they met on that fountain.
Exactly, the girl from the fountain.
Yo, that felt like a rom-com. Leave her for me.
You're all about these spin-off love relationships.
She's like the quirky librarian who's been in love with him since they were 5.
That girl's not a librarian.
Oh my god.
It's more like the quirky. Okay, that was gonna be mean. I'm sorry. I don't know what's with me.
My eyebrows shut up so fast. I was like, what are you gonna say? Anyway.
Yeah. So like, he's had a couple of friends that have been protective, and I don't know what it is. Like maybe he's just comes off to his friend group like this, lovable, happy, kind of wanting to go with the flow kind of guy that his friends feel need to be protective over. But like, dude's fine. He's got his own opinions, his own life. Like he is juggling, kind of like jack of all trades, all these other jobs to make a flow, even though he may not have like one career he's following right now. But hey, dude's getting it together. He's fine.
Yeah. He does strike me as a spontaneous type of person, and I get that. I have elements of that in myself. So where I'm sure this isn't he's done other adventures. Like I'm sure when he was like building his house, they're like, wait, what? You're doing what? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to build my own house. Like stuff like that. So I could see they're viewing this as, oh, this is one of his spontaneous things. But like, he's whole ass married. Like he is whatever. So I could see that being like, I totally get why everyone is saying, is being so cautious about it. It's a wild thing. But just like Thaddeus said, he's got nothing to lose. Whatever. Go for it, man. Go for it. When else are you going to find a doctor who also likes to wear onesies and like watermelon shirts like you? Live your life. Live your life.
Go
man.
for it.
Go for it.
And peach crowns.
And peach.
And their crowns.
Coming down the aisle with birds on her head, and you just
hey,
live your life.
They compliment so well.
They really do. And that's a good transition, because another thing that came up with them is that Amelia had just straight up admitted that she kind of signed up for the show because she thought it would be cool to be on TV, and that she didn't necessarily like the marriage part wasn't necessarily like the driving factor there. So like, how do you think that might be factoring into Bennett's decision? Because now that like kind of throws a wrench in things, right? It's like learning that later on, after they built this foundation, they've said, I love you. They're talking about moving and stuff. And then to be like, kind of the reason that I started this wasn't super genuine. That must hurt.
Oh, you please go ahead first.
Yeah. So the first thing I felt was just kind of bummed for Bennett, because part of me was like, so do you even want to stick around after decision day, or is this kind of just fun, And I talked about this with Marquise. So for the listeners out there, Marquise is my boyfriend, and
Marquise,
bringing that up.
I don't know why I felt like I had to do
Shout
that.
out to Marquise.
We'll get him on the show eventually. I'd have to peer pressure him a little more. Just kidding. um, no. So like, I definitely think that for just my first impression was just like that was kind of just insensitive and not being on the show for the right reasons. But Marquise was saying that. I mean, she also went in with a little lower expectations just to be like, hey, this is an opportunity to possibly be my partner. I'm not banking on it. I am not like saying I'm going to be devastated if it doesn't happen. This is just also a fun new opportunity to see if I do find my life partner, which if it does happen, even better. But like, I mean, we've seen plenty of couples on the show that unfortunately don't stay together after decision day, which, you know, can be devastating if you had high expectations and if you went in like absolutely determined, like no matter who was on that altar, you had to be married to that person. And it's like, okay, I can like kind of see the pros and cons to having, you know, that approach, but I was still like, so what's been it to you?
Yeah, he seemed hurt. He did not. I mean, he wasn't crying or anything, but you could tell he was. It seemed like he was caught off guard by that statement from her. And I guess so. My thoughts on it. I kind of had that feeling anyway from the beginning. I sometimes have this as well, where it's like, I'll do something for the story of it. This seems fun. I'll try it out. And then you do it, and you're like, whatever. When I get there, I will figure it out when I'm there. I think the problem with her saying it in this context is she's not the first person, I imagine, to be in this, but you don't have to say it. Like, I think saying it is the biggest problem. Like, it's the, like, not everything that comes in your head that you should vocalize situation.
Little insensitive.
Exactly. Because if that's the case for you, that's fine, but that might not be the case for him. And from what we saw, his reaction, it appears like that wasn't the case for him. Also, it kind of touches upon a little bit of the, well, I would make it work with anybody type of thing, which is good to think, but there's a level of cockiness, or I don't know. It's just, it's a bit arrogant to say that statement. And I think the part of it that was probably the hardest to hear was when she was saying like, oh, I kind of miss the cameras, or like I felt like I was a movie star or something like that. Like, these are all things that are true, and I'm sure she's not the only person, nor will she be the last person to feel this way, but you just don't need to say it. You just don't need to say it. And it's just like, how did you expect him to take that? It's so, oh, I could have been replaced with anyone and you would be fine. Like, just, there's so many. So I get why she was saying it. Clearly it's the truth. I kind of had the feeling that that's the case. Even with him, like, I think he likes being adventurous and doing things. So like, even parts of that I see in him, but he's not going to say that. It's just, I wish he didn't say that. I've been so sure on them, but seeing that, a part of me thought, oh, like, I could see on decision day going, well, I did that. It was fun. Now I'm going to go back to being my real life and be a doctor. Like, okay, I'm done playing around with you. Time for me to go and do the thing, my real life type stuff. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. But that scene just was scary.
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a couple of times where they have both seemingly accidentally really hurt the other person, and then it's never really addressed. Because when they were at the couples retreat and they wrote the letter to their younger selves, she wrote this whole thing about like some jokes about how she was going to use a hair dye that was going to mess up her hair and like that kind of thing. But she also included something about how, you're never going to believe the way that you get married, but like he's going to be worth it. Like she said something sweet basically about him.
Very sweet.
And then it cuts to him reading his letter about how he wishes he would have saved his Pokemon card because it would have been worth 20K now. And
That's
which,
funny.
like,
That's
of course,
funny.
they're like, I get how that misstep could happen, but she was like, "Oh, I kind of thought you'd say something about me," and he didn't pick up the hint, and it was just it just kind of fell flat. So like that for me was a like not a red flag, but like a yellow flag. Like, hey, he just hurt your feelings, and you're not addressing it. You're giving him weird hints around it. If he hurt your feelings and it's that serious, you say so. Talk about it.
Mhm.
Like, otherwise you're just going to hold on to that.
Now that you bring that up, I actually was thinking about in that scene when he just completely missed the hint. I feel like that was one of the first times, and I may be wrong when I say that, but one of the first times he started to get a little vulnerable, exposing what he is struggling with. So from the beginning, he's really owned this kind of jack of all trades profession that he has of being, I don't even know all the things that he does, but he just like makes a bunch of side hustles make him money in some ways. And like he's kind of owned it this whole time, but he also has never talked about it either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of just like let it show for itself, be like, oh, it's pretty cool, that kind of thing. But like when he started to write this letter, I was like, oh, so like there's an element to your confidence that not having like a one career or enough stable income that's also maybe taking a hit inside, and like you're not really expressing that. And when I was hearing that letter from him, I heard that like maybe there is that part of him that's like regretting that he is not at a profession or at a steady level of income that he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I think like, that's kind of what I heard.
Yeah, that's a really good insight because I think he hasn't really talked about money that much in his views on it. He's very open about it nonetheless, but he kind of feels like one of those people who clearly his life and life's purpose is to do creative work. And he obviously cares a lot about like just he thinks really big of like, how do I fit into society and the world and this ecosystem, and is very conscientious in that way. And I think sometimes people who think that way get stuck into this lane of thinking that like, I can only be this person if I don't make a lot of money. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think if we had more rich, creative people, the world would be a lot better because they have influence and power to make things better. And so I want that for him of like, let's just get you a business friend who can see what your skills are and like kind of get you in the right area.
Really quickly. So you just made me think of something. So Marcus and I've been watching this show called The Playbook, and it's a series of coaches talking about life advice. And so I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but I highly recommend it. It's a really good show. And so the second episode is Jill Ellis, so the women's national team's soccer coach.
Okay.
And one of the advice points that she gives is and I'm going to butcher the words that she used, but basically, if you want to be heard, make a statement. And she talked about how the women's team used their visibility of doing so well in the World Cup as a platform for their voices to talk about, gender pay gaps and the issues that they really felt personal to them. And so like, I hear you actually saying these things about, things that Bennett really cares about. And that's what I hear again, relate, that advice to be like, there are so many things that we may be passionate about. And there's also really effective ways to be heard when we want to, showcase all of that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's you guys are just killing it with the insight here. Time for me to throw in a not insightful statement. No, I do. Yeah, I'm having fun this episode. I think you make a really good point. It's funny when you said we need, to paraphrase, more rich creatives, and I went, as soon as you said that, I thought Kanye West, and I'm like, I don't know if we want more Kanye Wests in the world. They might try to run for president when no one asked them to. Um, I'm like
Sorry, I
a
just blew out my mic. Way too
I'm
loud.
the biggest Kanye fan, but
Okay.
stop, man,
But
stop,
in the music, not in the political world.
stop, man, stop it, please. I have all your albums. I love you, man. Stop it.
I'm crying now.
But I think so. There's two things I picked up in that. The first one, because I didn't even put those two together, but now that you're saying it, like that did seem like one of those scenes where that affected her. And then lo and behold, a few days later, she's hurting him back. I really hope, because I like him a lot. I'm going to choose, even if it's naive, I'm going to choose to believe that that wasn't the intention. That is just she was speaking her truth and mistakenly hurt him. But
Truth.
But it does seem like oh, you hurt me, cha 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 cha, stab in the back. Guess what? Got you. I'm very animated this episode, but so there's that. And then the other thing that came to mind is I think you're totally right in terms of the career and things of that nature. But I'm all business. I like talking business. I love it, and I enjoy all the like different ways that you can do that. But I think he's a successful person, and I don't think necessarily that finances equal success or intelligence.
Mhm.
Just finances is just that, finances. And when we hear the way he articulates himself and the way like his perspective on a lot of things, like you said, you could tell he's a big thinker, right? And I think ultimately, I imagine that's what she finds attractive about him. And I think he'll be like, I think once you know yourself, you'll figure out the money aspect of it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
he has all the tools that if he wanted to find that type of grown up job, I'm doing that in quotations, he could do that. And I know that's not what you were saying. So I know in general, though, I feel like sometimes people will say, will kind of downplay a person's thoughts or opinions or whatnot because they're not wealthy or whatnot, especially when it's like a creative person like this. They'll be like, he's just a creative. It's like, no, like his thoughts are really smart and really in tune. And I think he sums up a lot of his thoughts, kind of sum up a lot of people in our generation, honestly. Like even his viewpoint of moving from job to job, like if you look at the numbers, a lot of people our age group are gig workers, right? Like that's not a uncommon thing. People driving Uber, the people doing dropping off Amazon packages, a lot of them are doing the same thing, and they're just as smart and they're just as insightful. And I don't like when, again, I know none of us here feel that way, but I don't like that when conversations are had, they'll be like, oh, let this go for the grown-ups and you guys can sit in your corner. And it just, I hate that so much. And when I see him, I get that. I get really proud of how well he knows himself. So yeah, I know, even though I feel like this episode I sound like the broke boy because I keep on defending people with no money apparently, but you know what? I really like that.
Yeah.
About
I
him.
think I would love to see what would Bennett do if he had a lot of resources, not even
Sure.
like just financially, but if he were to work at a larger theater, if he were to work on larger projects, if he were to be able to kind of up the influence of people that he's working with who are still creatives but are just at a different level, I feel like he could do some really cool stuff. And with that might come a little bit more financial security, because he, like, in the letter to himself or whatever, says something that he hadn't made more than like 20K in a year, and like that's not a lot. And it's
That's
not
poverty
about like,
level.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not about like, oh, so you can buy nice things or whatever. It's like a survival thing of like, do you have your bases covered? Do you have, if there's some sort of emergency, are you going to be okay? Are you like, you're going into this marriage where someone's going to be making a lot more than you? Do you have the economic mobility to be able to divorce and leave if you need to, and you're not relying on her income? These are usually things we talk about for women, but like this is a different situation. So that part of it, of just like getting his bases covered, and also like amplifying the very clear and very unique talents that he has, I think it would just be extraordinary to see him like have what he whatever he wants and needs to be able to like do those kind of things.
Yeah.
All the crazy ideas that he has that he just doesn't have the thing for yet. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. It's funny you mention the price, I mean, the income difference between them. And I know we've kind of touched upon this earlier, but this season we have two couples that are like that, and how they addressed it is completely different. So we've got the Bennett and Brett and Olivia, and then you have the Bennett and Amelia, and it's like it's the perfect example of it's how you address it. It's not just because you have an income discrepancy doesn't mean that it's the end for the relationship. And it's so great that, I mean, I doubt that they planned that, but it's great that you can see the two different ways of addressing it. Like for Brett, he had a hard time with that, and he couldn't not drop sarcastic comments. And with Bennett, I get the feeling that he's more looking at it from all right, well, let me find a thing that I can do that's a little bit more financially stable, and I get to still express myself, and
Right.
I think he'll find it.
Yeah. And speaking of these gender roles, how about Karen and Miles with her difficulty of not seeing him as this masculine alpha figure that she wants next to
I'm
her?
gonna sit back and let Agu take this one, because
We've been talking for a while, so I'm a little tired. So you're lucky. You're lucky, Karen. You're lucky. I don't
I
have
know
that
you're
much
listening,
energy.
Karen. You care a lot about what we have to say.
She's like, the chances of her listening to this is slim. But I called it. That's it. I'm done. I'm over.
That's all you want to say.
I just, it needs to be said. Excuse the clicking here. I just wanted to read the line. So, this is when Karen is with her friends, and her friend said, quote, "You both great people, but you need an alpha male, Karen, because you don't listen. You need him to give you that look and to be like, this is what it is." And then Karen agrees, and she says something about she needs a man to put her in her place. Again, I said it. But
wait, did you say it, Agu?
did I? Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I called that. But I wonder if part of this is that age difference. If like that, she's worried that because they have that age difference, that he is not going to be. So now I'm going to try to be nice. I wonder if she's worried that it's not going to feel like a marriage of equals by by that age difference. Mm-hmm. That's the being nice side. The not nice side would be the relationship that she was in before was a bit toxic, and she's kind of looking for that in this relationship. I'm kind of leaning towards that a little bit more, honestly, but I think there's two different ways of getting to that, and I don't even think that's a bad thing. Like, if you want that in your relationship, okay. But the few times that he's actually like joked around slightly, her reaction to it was wildly different. Like I don't even know. Like it's one thing to say I need him to put me in my place. I feel like if he dared to try to do that, she would lose it. So I don't even know if that's the truth. I feel like this is more of she thinks this, but in actuality, like, could you imagine if Miles was like, "Woman, drop that chicken wing," and like Lord have, I don't know why I thought chicken wing, but like she would lose it. She
Are
would
you
lose
hungry?
it. I'm a little hungry. Yes. So, so I just that was very unfortunate to see, and I really, again, I'm rooting for them, but I think Miles is quote unquote the modern uh, guy, and he's like he knows his feelings and he expresses them, and he's not a stoic cowboy or whatever image that was considered manly in the past. And if that's not something that she's interested in, that's cool. Just don't string him along. And that's my only concern is I feel like she's stringing him along. Now, if you're in it, then treat it like a relationship. We kind of talk about the Woody and Amani. Like they're all in this. Like they're not trying to push stuff out into the past or whatever. Like they are in it. And those scenes where like he's trying to like get affection and like I'm talking like just light touching of his wife, and she is like on the other side of the room. And there was the one scene where they had like laundry or something, and this girl went and sat on the laundry to not sit next to her husband. Like stuff like that. I'm just like, why are you doing this? Why? And then on the Miles side, yo man, like you keep on getting kicked and pushed and punched, and you're just like trying every single time. I just, but I'm still rooting for them. That's all I got. That's all I got.
What do you think, Mabel?
So this is actually a conversation I've had with a couple of friends. I'd say like maybe 2 months ago now. So before I started watching this season, we talked specifically about men being alphas and girls being betas in their relationships. And I had a tough time with that because it was partnering the word alpha with the word with men and betas with females. And I disagree with that. I think that people can be alphas and can be betas, either men or women or other genders. And I think that it feeds into the difficult gender stereotypes we play into when we say that men have to be, strong, decisive, and lack of showing emotion, and have all these other, traits of traditional stereotypical men. I have a really tough time with that because I feel that there's so much more to people that it really isn't fair to a person to really say you are born male and therefore you have to act like an alpha. And thinking of it from Miles and Karen, I was also finding myself frustrated because Karen from the beginning has talked about wanting someone who is more open in their emotions. Well, guess what? Stereotypically, alphas are not. And it's very, I think, almost contradictory to say that you want someone that is open with their emotions, vulnerable, expressive in those ways, and should like carry the weight of the relationship, be the decision maker, have the goals, put you in your place when you're being XYZ. And I was just like, okay, so what are you going to contribute to the relationship?
Yeah.
And when I say that specifically, I am referencing a relationship expert / keynote speaker, and I'm forgetting his name right now. But he talked about, and I have to give him a shout out when I figure out his name. I forgot.
Yeah.
But I listened to one of his episodes, and he talks about that if you want someone that is driven, talented, knows how to put themselves together, is funny, is smart, you also have to realize that they probably want that same thing in you. So before you go asking so much, like, look if you also have that to give. And I didn't really hear that coming from Karen. All I heard is that you need to be all these things, and you need to be this masculine man, and I want you to be the alpha and carry the relationship. oh yeah, and put me in my place too. So like do everything you need in your relationship, in the part of the relationship, and carry my weight in
Yep.
there too. And I just really I had a tough time with that.
Absolutely. I agree
Yeah.
with both of you wholeheartedly. Because it's like not only are you saying that he's responsible for basically just being in charge of the household, like all of the stuff, but he's also in charge of checking you. So that means that he's managing you and your emotions, your reactions, your what you're talking about. Like he's not only does that like get down into like borderline abusive territory where like that you're kind of asking for that type of dynamic where someone is in control of you, but you're also making them just responsible for absolutely everything. Like you are putting yourself into a box by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like what you guys are saying, I don't think she fully wants that. I think she thinks she wants that because to your points, when he does get a little bit more bold or, speak up a little bit about something, then suddenly it's a problem. So it's like, well, clearly you don't want that, at least in the dynamic
Yeah.
that you have with this specific man, Miles. Like that is not the dynamic that's going to work for you here. And also, girl, has that ever worked for you in your past? Has it? Has
Yeah.
that worked for you?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to look at a new dynamic. Maybe the experts knew that this is a dynamic that would work better for you for the long haul, and maybe give that a shot. Maybe revisit what you think you need from a partner, because like to me it's just like, especially with her being a woman and him being a man, you can have a relationship where one partner is a little bit more outspoken and one is a little bit more subdued, and they still have equal power. What she seems to be describing is unequal power, where she willingly wants to have less power than her partner. And it's hard to understand that for me.
Yeah.
Which there are relationships that all the time, and we still see that are traditional male and female roles. And that's totally fine if both partners sign up for that and really want that in the relationship and they make that work. But like we saw this with Will and Jasmine in previous seasons before, where, wait a second, you want the nice parts of traditional female, like male gender stereotypes, and the convenience of being modern and progressive in relationships. So like, wait a second, like where's the weight you're also playing in your relationship besides just having like someone who is alpha and someone who, is, you know what I mean? It's just like picking and choosing unfairly to your partner because now you're asking them to pull the weight. And
Yeah.
so if you want traditional gender roles, absolutely, like, go for it. Realize like there's also weight that even in traditional gender roles that female pull too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, so yes, the convenience thing. I think that conveniently picking when you want to believe in something, that gets me. I get a little frustrated with that. When it comes to the gender roles, sometimes I feel like it's, especially now where um, we're in a situation where things are changing and there's a lot of change. I don't know why I repeated that twice, but there's a lot going on and a lot in flux. So you'll hear certain people say like, "Hey, I want a stay-at-home wife and whatnot, but I also want her to go and make money." It's like, well, like what? What you're just picking when you want that part of it. So that is definitely frustrating. I think. So part of me thinks that she's used the word masculine, and I think she's using the wrong word. And the problem is, by her using the word masculine, now you're triggering a whole bunch of other things where, like with Christina and Henry, assertive is the thing I would say with them, right? Like she could say, "Oh, I'm looking for a masculine man," but what she's looking for is an assertive one. That doesn't, assertiveness and masculinity. Well, yes, there's probably some type of correlation there, but that's not the only thing that makes that. So I wonder if, she could say that, but Miles is assertive. He's like, I don't get shy from Miles. in all the interactions. He's always the loud. He's the loud, bringing everyone in the room together. Like, I don't know what she's looking for in particular. So that's why it gets so hard, where it's like, what is the thing? What is the thing that's the, is it because he shares his feelings? Like, what is the thing that's not masculine about him? I don't, he has a job. He has all the normal conventional trappings of what a man is supposed to have. What is it that you're looking for? So I wonder if it's just, there's another word, there's something else that she wants, and we just aren't hearing that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, maybe it's like a language thing. There's just a certain
maybe
descriptor that she's really trying to get at and is using masculine instead, or that alpha thing instead.
Yeah, like if he was shorter than her, I could be like, oh, maybe she means height. Like, what, I have such a hard time finding out what that is with them, you know?
But we also have seen this from the beginning, even before their wedding,
Yeah.
because she saw how emotional he speaks and openly on his feeds online. She was just like turned off by that, and she's used. I don't remember on TV, but I do know that Miles talked about it with his friends, that she's used more feminine terms to describe him. And I think it all just comes back to that he is not afraid to dive into his emotions, really know how he's feeling, and express that. And she views that, even though she contradicts herself in wanting that, she views that as traditionally feminine. And so it's almost like a zero-sum game. I think like she's viewing it like, if you have any feminine traits, obviously you can't be masculine. And she's not really disconnecting those to be like, wait a second, like you can be what you're considering masculine, assertive, decisive, driven, and you can also be someone who is not, afraid of understanding how they feel and expressing that to you. Which, if you remember, you also said you wanted at the beginning, like you wanted someone who is not afraid to open up about their emotions. But now, so you got someone that opens up emotions, and you like it.
Yeah. The more we talk about this, and I know we've been talking for a while, so we're probably going to call it soon, but the more we talk about this, I think what she's trying to articulate, and I have no rights to say this, but I'm still going to do it. I think what she's trying to articulate is she has this feeling that he's going to say something to make her feel okay in the moment. And I think she wants him to say the call her out thing, where it's like, if he is angry, to say, hey, I'm angry, or hey, you just called me, you just said I wasn't masculine. That's not okay. I think that's what she's pushing for. And I don't even, to be fair, I don't know what that would be called. I don't know what descriptor I would use. I need to call Bennett so he can kind of help me out with this. But I think that might be the
You'll
thing.
get thesaurus.
All the answers. I think that might be the thing. Yeah, I've gone past frustration with them at this point. I'm just kind of indifference. So
kind of there too.
But then again, I mean, we've seen time and again where we are confused and have different opinions on some of the couples on the show, but they make it work. Like we've seen, like,
yeah,
I don't know, like for some reason why Christine and Henry are still going through the motions now. And
yeah, we'll never understand that.
That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Man, I wonder. Like, it's funny. I feel like if she was, I joked around and said this before with the paired with Henry, but like, it feels like when she says things like, I need someone who's going to take it slow and all that type of stuff, I'm like, you're describing Henry. I could not see you working with a Henry. Like, that would be, then you'd be so angry because why aren't you making any move? It's just like, yo, you can't win in these streets. So just whatever, just do you. And then if that doesn't work for the other person, whatever, it's fine. Move on. But
life advice.
yeah. But I don't know. Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys, for hanging in there with us. This one was a long one, but uh, decision day
And the reunion.
and the reunion episode. So we got
Yes.
some fun stuff to talk about. For I'm gonna say it, the best season of Married at First Sight
Oh my
so far.
goodness.
I'll say it. I don't care. I'll say it. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and
Sure to follow us at I have to sneak it in there. Please go follow us on Instagram, Cup of Three Podcast. We also what?
no, it's just you were on point there. I was gonna forget. So yeah.
We're also doing video recordings of all our podcasts. So if you go to YouTube and you search for Cup of Three Married at First Sight, we should come up. So you can see our lovely faces as we make faces at each other talking, basically. But yeah, thanks for hanging in there with us. We'll catch you next time for Decision Day. It's finally here, and it's gonna be a lot, I'm thinking. All right, we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.